The bottle shattered against the stone wall of the tasting room, red wine exploding like blood across the terracotta tiles. And in that instant, I knew Caroline had finally broken. Not just the glass, but the fragile truce we'd built over months of stolen glances and unspoken promises. Her scream echoed through the empty Vineyard office, raw and guttural, the kind that rips from the soul when betrayal tastes sharper than the Cabernet we'd been bottling all day. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs, because in her eyes, those fierce hazel storms, I saw not just anger, but the mirror of my own terror, that loving her might destroy us both. The sun hung low over the Napa Valley like a bruised peach, bleeding orange into the sky as I trudged through the rows of Chardonnay vines, my boots kicking up dust that clung to my jeans like regret. It was my third harvest at Willow Creek Vineyards, and by all accounts I should have been numb to the rhythm, the clip of shears, the thud of crates filling with grapes, the endless ache in my lower back. But nothing prepared me for Caroline Reyes. She arrived in late spring, a whirlwind from San Diego with a laugh that cut through the morning fog like a siren's call. Her auburn hair cropped short and wild, freckles dusting her nose like cinnamon on latte foam. 28, same as me, but where I was Karina Voss, the quiet German-American girl who'd inherited this patch of earth from a father who drank more than he tended. She was fire Mexican roots tangled with California dreams. A sommelier who'd fled a corporate gig in the city for something real, something that stained your hands purple and your heart raw. We met properly on the first day of Crush, when the grapes came in heavy and the air thickened with their fermented promise. I was overseeing the sorting table, fingers numb from the cold hose spray, when she sauntered up in cut-off shorts and a tank top that hugged her like a second skin, her hazel eyes scanning the chaos with that easy confidence that made my stomach twist. "You the boss lady?" she'd asked, smirking as she grabbed a bunch of clusters, her nails painted a chipped crimson that matched the Syrah we just unloaded. I wiped my forehead with the back of my hand, trying not to stare at the way sweat beaded on her collarbone. "Co-owner. Karina. And you are?" "Caroline. Just call me Caro. Heard this place makes wine that could make angels weep." She popped a grape into her mouth, juice dribbling down her chin, and licked it away with a grin that felt like a dare. From that moment it was there, the pull, magnetic and terrifying, like gravity deciding to rewrite the rules just for us. Harvests blurred into weeks of 14-hour days, the vineyard a living beast under our hands. We'd work side by side in the barrel room, her explaining the nuances of oak aging while I showed her how to read the soil's secrets in the way the vines twisted toward the sun. Laughter came easy at first, her teasing my Teutonic precision with the pruning knives, me mocking her city girl aversion to the spiders that webbed the trellises. But beneath it something simmered. Stolen touches, her hand brushing mine as we passed a tray of samples, the heat of her thigh against mine on the hay-strewn brake bench overlooking the valley. Nights when the crew dispersed to trailers and motels dotting the hills, I'd lie awake in my creaky farmhouse, the ceiling fan stirring ghosts of old grapevines, wondering if she felt it too. The way her voice lingered in my ears like the aftertaste of Riesling. It was the full moon in September that cracked us open. The crew had thrown a bonfire down by the creek, bottles of last year's vintage passed hand to hand, faces gilded in flickering light. Music thumped from a battered Bluetooth speaker. Old Springsteen mixed with Bad Bunny, the playlist as mismatched as our little world. I'd had 2 glasses, enough to loosen the knot in my chest, when Caro pulled me aside, her fingers warm around my wrist. "Walk with me," she said, not a question, and I followed, heart thudding like a bass drum. We wandered to the edge of the property, where the vines gave way to wild mustard blooming gold under the stars. The air was thick with night-blooming jasmine, sweet and heady, and the moon painted everything silver, her skin, the leaves rustling like whispers. She stopped by the old irrigation ditch, leaning against a fence post, her breath coming quick. "Karina," she said, my name soft on her lips like a prayer or a curse. "This place. It's undoing me." I stepped closer, close enough to smell the wine on her breath, the earth on her skin. "What do you mean?" She looked up, eyes catching the moonlight, and in them I saw the storm, the fear, the want, the wild hope. "I mean, I've spent my whole life running from feelings like this. My family's back in San Diego, all expectations and what will the neighbors say? And here? With you. I feel like I could stay forever." Her hand found mine, tentative then sure, fingers lacing like vines seeking trellis. The world narrowed to that touch, the universe folding in on itself. I leaned in, or maybe she did, and our lips met, soft at first, a question, then deepening into an answer neither of us had words for. Her mouth tasted of Merlot and salt, her free hand cupping my jaw as if I were something fragile, precious. Stars wheeled overhead, indifferent witnesses, and for those endless seconds, the vineyard wasn't just land. It was ours, a sanctuary carved from soil and sweat and this impossible aching love. We pulled apart breathless, foreheads touching, and she whispered, "What now?" But I had no answer, only the fear blooming cold in my gut. That wanting her this much could uproot everything I'd built. The days after tasted of stolen sweetness. We'd sneak kisses in the cool shadows of the fermenters, her laughter muffled against my neck during inventory counts. She started leaving notes in my lunch pail, scribbled quotes from Neruda on napkins stained with grape juice. "I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees." I'd find them during lunch under the pepper tree, my cheeks burning as the crew bantered obliviously around us. Mornings she'd brew coffee strong and black in the bunkhouse kitchen, pressing a mug into my hands with a wink that said more than words ever could. But cracks formed early, subtle as drought stress in the leaves. My ex, Jordan, had left scars. 5 years of promises that soured like overripe fruit, her betrayal with a coworker ripping through me like wildfire. I'd poured myself into the vineyard after, letting the work harden me, convincing myself love was just another vintage that turned to vinegar. And Caro? She carried her own ghosts. Over late-night talks on the porch swing, rocking gently as coyotes yipped in the distance, she'd confess fragments. A conservative family who'd prayed away her queerness, a string of flings in the city that left her hollow. "I'm good at starting," she'd say, voice laced with that wry humor. "But endings? They gut me." We danced around it, building our world in whispers. One evening, after a rain that turned the paths to mud, we holed up in the old pump house, a forgotten nook stacked with rusted tools and cobwebbed shelves. Rain drummed on the tin roof as she traced patterns on my arm, her touch featherlight. "Tell me about your first time," she murmured, eyes curious, not pressing. I hesitated, the memory sharp. A college dorm in Santa Barbara, fumbling and fervent with a girl who vanished by dawn. It was messy, real, like this. I gestured between us, vulnerable in a way that terrified me. She smiled soft, pulling me closer. "Good. I don't want perfect. I want you." We kissed slow then, the world outside fading to gray, and for a while it felt like we could outrun the shadows. Harvest wrapped in a frenzy of last-minute picks, the air crisp with autumn's edge. The crew threw a wrap party in the barrel room. Lanterns strung like fireflies, platters of cheese and charcuterie scavenged from local farms. Caro and I played it cool, exchanging glances across the room that sizzled like embers. But as the night wore on and glasses emptied, she grew quiet, staring into her cup like it held prophecies. Later, under the stars again, we walked the east slope, her arm looped through mine. "I got an offer," she said suddenly, words tumbling like loose stones. "From a big winery in Sonoma. Head sommelier. It's everything I've been chasing." My step faltered, the valley sprawling below us suddenly vast, unforgiving. "And?" She stopped, turning to me, face pale in the moonlight. "It's a chance to build something. But leaving here. Leaving you." Her voice cracked and she pressed her palm to my chest, over my racing heart. I don't know how to choose. I wanted to beg her to stay, to say we'd figure it out. Vineyard life wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. Instead, I swallowed the plea. "You deserve the world, Caro. Don't let me clip your wings." She kissed me then, fierce and desperate, as if sealing a pact we both knew might break. But in the quiet hours after, alone in my bed with the sheets still warm from her, doubt crept in like fog off the bay. Was I holding her back, or was she the one who'd slip away first? Winter settled gentle that year, rains coaxing the vines into dormancy, the hillsides a quilt of brown and green. With the crew gone, the vineyard felt intimate, ours alone. We'd spend days pruning, her an oversized flannel borrowed from my closet, me teaching her the art of the cut, how to see the future in a bud's swell. Evenings we'd cook in the farmhouse kitchen, her tamales steaming beside my sauerkraut-spiked pierogies, cultures colliding in flavors that made us laugh till our sides ached. One stormy night, thunder rumbling like distant artillery, we lost power. Candles flickered on the mantel as we huddled on the rug before the fireplace, A bottle of our 22 Pinot between us. She leaned against me, head on my shoulder, and confessed, "My ma called today. She's softening. Said she misses me, wants me home for Christmas." Her fingers toyed with mine, tracing scars from thorn pricks. "What if I go? What if it's a trap?" I kissed her temple, tasting salt. "Then you face it. With me if you want." It was the closest I'd come to voicing forever, and her sigh against my neck was answer enough. But spring brought green shoots and old wounds. Jordan emailed out of the blue, a "Hey, how's life?" That reeked of boredom, not remorse. I deleted it, but the poison lingered, making me pull back when Caro reached for me. "What's wrong?" she'd ask, hurt flickering in her eyes. "Nothing." I'd lie, burying it in work. The vineyard demanded everything. Bud break, shoot thinning. And I let it swallow me, afraid that opening up would invite the storm. By May, as the first clusters formed, tension hummed like heat lightning. Caro's interviews for Sonoma ramped up, her laptop glowing late into nights while I pretended to sleep. One morning over coffee on the porch she dropped the bomb. "They want me. Starting July." The mug burned my palms. "Congratulations." It came out flat and her face fell. "Karina, talk to me. Is this what you want?" "Me gone." I stood, chair scraping. "What I want doesn't matter if it's not your dream." "It is," she shot back, rising too. "But you're my heart now. Don't make me choose alone." We argued then, words like hail, me accusing her of 1 foot out the door, her calling me walled off, scared of the fall. Doors slammed, silence stretched, and by evening she was gone, driving to the city for space. Days blurred into a gray haze. The vines mocked me, budding defiant while my world wilted. I threw myself into the fields, hands in the dirt, whispering apologies to the earth. A week later she returned, suitcase thumping on the porch, eyes red-rimmed. "I'm staying," she said simply, stepping into my arms. "Sonoma can wait. It's home." Relief crashed through me and we clung there, the vineyard witness to our fragile peace. Summer swelled hot and golden, the air shimmering with heat. We'd make love in the hammock strung between apple trees. Slow, reverent, bodies mapping each other's stories in sighs and touches that healed what words couldn't. Picnic suppers on checkered blankets amid the vines. Her head in my lap as I read poetry from dog-eared Pablo Neruda. Her fingers weaving through mine like promises. But betrayal bruised slow like a fault line under the valley floor. It started with a letter, innocent or so I thought. Delivered to the vineyard office. Addressed to Caroline in elegant script. I opened it by mistake, thinking it Bill's, and the words hit like a sucker punch. "Miss you more than words, darling. Come back to me. Jordan." My hand shook as I refolded it, stomach churning. Jordan, my Jordan, reaching for Caro? The pieces clicked. The emails I'd ignored, the late nights when she'd claimed networking. The way she'd flinch sometimes at my touch like guilt's shadow. That night, as cicadas droned, I confronted her in the kitchen, the letter clutched like evidence. "How long?" My voice was steel, but inside I was shattering. Her face drained of color. "Karina, it's not. How long have you been talking to her?" The words tasted like ash. She sank into a chair, head in hands. "A few months. After our fight." She reached out, said she was sorry, wanted to make amends. It was nothing, just words. Nothing. I laughed, bitter. "She called you darling. And you didn't tell me?" Tears welled in her eyes. I was ashamed. Scared it'd break us. But it didn't mean anything. "You're everything." The room spun, trust fracturing like thin ice. I stormed out into the dark, vines closing around me like accusatory fingers. How could I believe her when my own heart screamed liar? The betrayal festered like black rot on the leaves, invisible at first but spreading inexorably. For days I slept in the guest room, the farmhouse echoing with our silence. A chasm wider than the valley itself. Caro tried. Coffee left steaming on the counter. Notes slipped under my door quoting Rumi on forgiveness. Her eyes pleading across the breakfast table as we picked at toast in strained quiet. "Karina, please," she'd whisper during morning rounds, her hand hovering near mine over the trellis wire. "Let me fix this." But fix what? The lie or the fear it unearthed? That I was always the fool left picking up shards? I'd pace the rows at dawn, dew soaking my cuffs, replaying every laugh, every kiss tainted now. Jordan's ghost loomed. Not just mine but ours. A specter with manicured nails and a smile that promised everything and delivered dust. Work became my armor. The vineyard surged into Verizon, grapes shifting from green to purple blush, a miracle of transformation I orchestrated with grim focus. I hired temps for the heavy lifts, keeping Caro at arm's length, assigning her to the tasting room prep, me to the fields. She'd emerge at lunch, cheeks flushed from the wine's alchemy, bearing samples in etched glasses. "Try this," she'd say, holding it out like an olive branch. "The 23 cab, it's got that edge like us." I'd sip, nod curtly, the tannins biting like truth. "Needs more time in barrel." Our conversations clipped to logistics, irrigation schedules, pest scouts, yield projections. The crew noticed, whispers rippling like wine through the canes. "Bosses fighting?" one murmured to another, and I'd snap orders sharper than intended, driving them back to task. Nights were worst. I'd lie staring at the ceiling beams, etched with my father's initials from 78, listening to her move in the next room, pacing, sighing, the creak of floorboards a Morse code of remorse. Once, unable to bear it, I slipped into the kitchen at 2 a.m., finding her at the table, head bowed over a journal, pen scratching furious confessions. She looked up, startled, ink smudged on her cheek like war paint. "Can't sleep either?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What are you writing?" "Your resignation letter." Hurt flashed, but she pushed the notebook toward me. "Read it, please." Against my better judgment, I did. Pages of raw spill, doubts about Jordan's intentions, her own terror of repeating patterns, affirmations of us. "Karina's laugh is my North Star, without it I'm adrift." The last entry. "I choose her every day, even when it hurts." I closed it gently, throat tight. "Words are easy, Caro. Trust isn't." She stood, closing the distance, her scent, earth and vanilla, wrapping around me like a spell. "Then let me show you." Her hand cupped my elbow, tentative, and I didn't pull away. We talked till dawn, voices low over chamomile tea, peeling back layers. Her loneliness in the city, how Jordan's messages filled a void until they didn't. My walls built from Jordan's infidelity, brick by painful brick. "I should have told you," she admitted, tears tracing silent paths. "From the start." "And I should have trusted," I countered, though the words stuck. By sunrise we were fragilely mended, arms around each other on the porch as mist burned off the hills. But the scar remained, a fault line waiting for the next tremor. Fall crept in early that year, leaves turning crimson before their time, mirroring the unrest in my chest. The Sonoma offer lingered like a bad vintage. Caro had declined, but recruiters circled, emails pinging her phone during dinner. "Ignore them," she'd say, silencing it with a kiss, but I saw the flicker. Ambition warring with love. We threw ourselves into the crush, the frenzy a bomb. Grapes arrived in tidal waves, trucks rumbling up the drive laden with bins from neighboring plots. The air hummed with crusher's wine, the sweet tart crush of fruit underfoot. Caro shone in the ferment room, her sommelier skills turning chaos to symphony, adjusting yeast strains, monitoring bricks levels with a precision that rivaled my own. We'd lock eyes across the sticky floors, a shared grin cutting through exhaustion, and for stolen moments it felt whole again. But conflict brewed beyond our gates. My brother Lucas surfaced after months of radio silence, a drifter with my father's eyes and none of his grit, phoning from Reno with sob stories of bad bets and worse luck. "The vineyard's half mine, sis," he slurred one night, voice tinny through the line. "Dad's will said so. I need my cut." I gripped the receiver, knuckles white. "You signed it over years ago. For the down payment on your truck that you wrecked anyway." "Details," he scoffed. "Lawyer up or I will. Sell it off if I have to." The call ended with threats, but the damage rooted deep. Lucas had always been the golden boy, the one who fled for city lights while I stayed, nursing the land through droughts and recessions. Now with Caro by my side, the threat felt personal, a wrecking ball to our fragile haven. I didn't tell her at first, shame burning hotter than the truth. But she sensed it, cornering me in the office after a long day, spreadsheets blurring before my tired eyes. "What's going on?" "You've been a ghost." Sighing, I handed her the voicemail transcript I'd printed, his words black on white like accusations. Her face hardened as she read, then softened into fury. "He can't do this. We'll fight. It's not just money. I confessed, voice cracking. It's everything. This place is me's. She pulled me into her lap on the swivel chair, arms a fortress. Then we protect it. Together. Her lips brushed my temple, and in that vow hope flickered anew. We hired a lawyer from St. Helena. A no-nonsense type named Elena with silver streaks and a stare that could curdle milk. Meetings in her oak-paneled office smelled of leather and resolve, Caro at my side, her hand under the table a steady anchor. Lucas countered with bluster, letters from a shady attorney claiming undue influence in the will, but Elena dismantled them like faulty trellises. He's got no leg, she assured us over coffee post-session, but it'll drag. Months maybe. The uncertainty gnawed, shadows lengthening over our days. Sales dipped as buyers whispered of family disputes, and I lay awake plotting contingencies. Selling plots, taking loans, anything to hold the line. Caro countered with dreams, expanding the tasting room into a B&B, events under the stars, turning Willow Creek into a destination for lovers like us, queer hearts finding solace in the vines. You're a visionary, I murmured one night, tangled in sheets as rain pattered the window. She traced my ribs lazy circles. We're visionaries. You and me against the world. But the world pushed back. Lucas arrived unannounced in October, pulling up in a rust-bucket Chevy that coughed gravel across the drive. Tall and lean with a beard gone to seed, he sauntered into the barrel room like he owned it, Caro and I elbow-deep in racking. Sis, he drawled, ignoring her entirely. Place looks good. Profitable. Leave, I said, voice low, wiping hands on my apron. We're handling this through lawyers. He chuckled, clapping my shoulder too hard. Always the tough one. Dad would have hated seeing you like this, chained to dirt. His gaze slid to Caro then, appraising, lingering. Who's the help? Partner, she corrected, stepping forward, chin lifted. And you? The prodigal deadbeat. His laugh barked, but eyes narrowed. Feisty. Karina, you slumming with the staff now? Explains the limp business. Rage boiled, but Caro beat me to it, voice ice. Get off our land. Now. He lingered, smirking, but the fire in her eyes sent him retreating. As his taillights faded, she turned to me, trembling. He won't win. But his words wormed in, feeding insecurities. Was I chaining her? Our love a burden amid the fight? Climax came swift as a Santa on a wind, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I'd been in town for supplies, returning to find the farmhouse dark, Caro's truck gone. Panic-clawed visions of Lucas's threats, accidents on slick roads. I dialed her cell, voicemails beat mocking me. Caro, where are you? Call me. Hours ticked by, stars pricking the sky like accusations. At midnight, headlights swept the porch and she stumbled in, eyes wild, mascara streaked. Karina, God, What happened? I pulled her inside, hands scanning for hurt. She collapsed onto the sofa, burying face in hands. Lucas. He called. Said he'd drop the suit if I convinced you to sell. Or if I left. Made it sound like you and I were the problem. My blood iced. You went to him? To tell him off. But he twisted it, said things. About you deserving better than Vineyard trash. About how Jordan warned him I'd drag you down. Sobs racked her. He offered me money, Karina. To go. I said no, but what if he's right? What if I'm the storm ruining your roots? The room tilted, betrayal's echo from Jordan's letter roaring back. Did you consider it? Even for a second? Her head snapped up, horror in her gaze. No, never. But the doubt. It's poison. I love you too much to hurt you. Love. I echoed, pacing, voice rising. Or pity. Staying because you can't bear to be the villain again. Stop. She stood, grabbing my arms. This is us fighting shadows. Lucas, Jordan, they're not the enemy. Our fears are. Thunder cracked outside. Rain lashing windows like judgment. We shouted then, truth spilling. My terror of abandonment, her guilt from the lies, the weight of dreams deferred. I want this life, she cried. But not if it clips you. And I want you, I hurled back. But not if it's half-hearted. She slapped me. Not hard but enough to stun, her hand flying to mouth in shock. I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry. We crumpled together, sobs mingling, the storm outside mirroring the one within. Dawn broke gray, vines bowed under deluge. We woke entwined, bruises of words fading to resolve. We face him, I said, kissing her knuckles. Together. The hearing was set for December. A sterile courtroom in Napa smelling of polished wood and stale coffee. Lucas slouched opposite, his lawyer a slick weasel in pinstripes. Elena presented airtight, wills transfers his history of defaults. But Lucas testified, spinning tales of manipulation. My sister's iron fist. His eyes flicking to Caro with oily sympathy. She deserves stability, not this entanglement. Caro's hand tightened in mine under the table, nails digging crescents. When her turn came, she rose steady, voice clear as bell. Entanglement? That's love, Mr. Voss. The kind that built this vineyard from my sweat and Karina's heart. You? You're the thief, stealing what you never earned. The judge's gavel fell swift. Case dismissed, costs to Lucas. He stormed out cursing, but victory tasted bittersweet, the courtroom's chill seeping into bones. Outside, under overcast skies, Caro pulled me close. We did it. We did. But as we drove home, the valley unfolding like a promise, I wondered. Had the fight forged us stronger, or just delayed the fracture? Winter wrapped the vineyard in hush, frost silvering the dormant canes like fragile lace. With Lucas banished, his threats dissolving into a final venomous email we deleted unread, the land breathed easy, and so tentatively did we. Christmas came soft, no family fanfare. Instead, we strung lights in the barn, roasted chestnuts over a fire pit, Caro's tamales steaming beside a Yule log I'd carved from fallen oak. She gifted me a necklace, a tiny silver grape cluster, dangling like a talisman, and I gave her a leather-bound journal, pages blank for stories unwritten. For our next chapter, I whispered, fastening it around her neck, her pulse steady under my fingers. New Year dawned crisp, resolutions unspoken but shared. Rebuild, root deeper. Spring unfurled, tentative, bud swell, then burst, green shoots piercing earth like hope. We hired a new hand, a quiet NB named Riley with tattooed arms and a knack for irrigation, their presence a buffer against isolation. Caro dove into her B&B vision, sketching floor plans over breakfast, her enthusiasm infectious. Imagine queer weddings under the arbor, couples toasting with our rose. A haven. I watched her, pencil between teeth, auburn hair catching sunlight, and marveled. This woman who'd stormed my world like a Chinook wind, now its steady heartbeat. Our love deepened in quiet ways. Mornings tangled in flannel sheets, her breath warm on my neck. Evenings on the porch, feet entwined, watching fireflies dance like errant stars. Intimacy bloomed emotional, not urgent. Shared silences heavy with understanding, touches that spoke volumes, her thumb brushing my temple during headaches, my hand on her low back guiding her through crowds at the farmer's market. Yet scars lingered, faint but felt. Nightmares woke me sometimes. Jordan's face morphing into Caro's, betrayal a recurring vine choking my sleep. She'd stir, pulling me close. I'm here, she'd murmur, voice gravel from dreams. Her own demons surfaced in spring storms. Thunder triggering panic, memories of family fights where love was weaponized. We'd weather them curled by the hearth, her head in my lap, my fingers combing her hair as she whispered fears aloud, diffusing their power. By summer, the vineyard thrived. Clusters fattening under relentless sun, our 24 vintage promising excellence. The tasting room buzzed weekends, visitors charmed by Caro's pours, her stories of terroir weaving magic. This Cabernet, she'd say, swirling ruby and crystal, it's got backbone like the women who tend it. Eyes would meet mine across the bar, a private toast, and pride swelled warm as the valley breeze. But drama's shadow loomed eternal. Peace we'd learned was attending, not a given. It struck in July, heat wave baking the earth, when Elena called. Lucas is appealing. Pro bono from some activist firm. Claims discrimination. Says your lifestyle invalidated the will. Her tone dripped disdain, but the words landed like drought. I hung up, world tilting, and found Caro in the arbor, pruning errant shoots. He's back, I said, voice hollow, handing her the phone. She scanned the email, jaw clenching. Bastard. Using us as pawns. Worse. Twisting love into leverage. Rage boiled, but beneath fear. Another siege, resources drained, our sanctuary besieged. We rallied fundraisers at local co-ops. Crowdfunding from queer winemakers' networks. Allies emerged. A Napa lesbian couple who'd built their own label, donating bottles. Riley organizing a Vineyard yoga retreat, proceeds to the fight. Media sniffed around, a profile in the Chronicle. Vineyard sisters versus the past. Painting us as underdogs, hearts on sleeves. Caro shown in interviews, her fire tempered to eloquence. This isn't about land. It's about legacy, who we love, what we build. Publicity boosted sales, bottles flying off shelves, but the toll mounted. Sleepless nights poring over depositions, days blurred in court prep. One evening, after a brutal session where Lucas's lawyer grilled her on influence, Caro shattered. A vase hurled in the kitchen, shards glittering like tears. Why can't he let go? She sobbed, sliding to the floor. Why poison everything? I knelt, gathering pieces, her in my arms. Because he's empty. We're full. We cried then, raw and releasing, then made slow love on the rug. Bodies reaffirming what courts couldn't touch. Us unbreakable. The appeal hearing fell on a sweltering August day. Courtroom fans whirring futile against the heat. Lucas testified again, voice oily with feigned hurt. Family's sacred. But Karina's choices. They alienated me. His eyes slid to Caro, a smirk ghosting, predator scenting weakness. Her rebuttal was thunder. Standing tall in a linen blouse, hair pinned like a crown, she dismantled him. Choices? Loving fiercely, building from soil up. That's not alienation, that's evolution. You fled, Lucas. We stayed, grew. The vineyard's ours by right, by heart. The judge, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes, nodded subtly, and when the gavel fell, dismissed, permanent, we exhaled as one. Outside, reporters clamored, but we slipped away, driving winding roads to a hidden cove by the Russian River. We swam naked in the current, water-cool silk on sun-hot skin, laughing as minnows nipped our toes. On the bank, wrapped in a blanket, she traced my collarbone. We won. Not just the fight, I said, kissing her damp forehead. Us. Fall harvest arrived triumphant, crews swelling with friends. Riley leading songs in Spanish and English as we picked, baskets brimming under azure skies. The crush party that year was legend. Lanterns bobbing like lanterns, a queer DJ spinning sets that pulsed with joy, Caro and I dancing slow in the crush, her cheek on mine, world fading to our rhythm. But victory's glow revealed deeper truths. One night, post-harvest, as fog rolled in thick from the bay, we sat on the hilltop, blanket draped, a thermos of mulled wine between us. I've been thinking, she said, voice soft against the mist, about Sonoma. Not leaving but expanding. A satellite tasting room there, linked to here. Your roots, my reach. My heart stuttered, fear's old echo, but I saw it. Not fracture but growth. Together. Always. Her smile lit the gloom and we kissed, fog swirling like benediction. Winter's end brought bloom, literal and figurative. The B&B broke ground in March, simple cabins nestled in olive groves, names like Riesling Retreat, etched on welcome signs. Bookings flooded. Honeymoons, retreats, anniversaries. Our first guests, a black lesbian couple from Oakland, left a review that pinned my heart. Willow Creek isn't a place. It's permission to love without apology. Caro and I marked our first anniversary in May, under that same oak where stars had witnessed our beginning. Picnic of vineyard cheeses, her in the white sundress from our first real talk, me with wildflowers tucked in my braid. To depths I never feared. I toasted, clinking glasses. To wanting them anyway, she replied, eyes shimmering. We made love there on a quilt, slow and sacred, the valley cradling us. Afterward, tangled and sated, she whispered dreams. Kids someday, adopted, running through vines, travels to Tuscany, blending worlds, growing old, hands gnarled like canes still holding. And if storms come? I asked, tracing her freckles. We bend, she said. But don't break. Like the vines. Summer 25 crested golden, our vintage lauded at tastings, judges praising soulful complexity. Lucas faded to footnote, a Christmas card from him arriving unsigned, perhaps apologies ghost. Jordan, a memory boxed away, lessons learned. One dusk as I walked the rows alone. Caro inside plotting menus. I paused at the irrigation ditch, grapes heavy as hearts. The sun dipped, painting everything amber, and I felt it. Gratitude vast as the sky. Love wasn't absence of fear. It was choosing through it, daily like tending. She found me there, slipping arms around my waist from behind. "Penny for your thoughts?" I turned, kissing her nose. "Just this. Home." Her grin was sunbreak. "Best vintage yet." And as stars pricked the twilight, we walked back hand in hand. The vineyard whispering yes, human, flawed, enduring. In America's heartland of wine and wander, we'd carved our story. Not fairy tale but real, dramatic, deep, defiantly ours.